Hello and welcome to another episode of Prevailing Through Pain, where extraordinary women tell their stories. Today, I am so happy to have my cousin, Melanie Farley. So Melanie, thank you for being a part of the podcast today. And please tell us about your humble beginnings.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. And as you know, we always known each other, mothers and sisters.
What's the favorite thing that I love to say?
We're 11 months apart. So anybody that knows us knows that line. But my humble beginnings, born and raised in Tulsa. My mother had 5 children. She struggled like a lot of people did. But elementary, junior high, high school right there in Tulsa. And went to college, got my degree.
So let's back up.
Okay.
In high school, so you had a sport that you were really good in. So can you tell us what sport that was?
Well, with this 6-foot frame, most people would probably guess basketball, and that's true. But I played all sports. I think it was just a natural gift. But when I played in high school, they were still playing 3-on-3. Now a lot of people know that. And that was a thing. So we played 3-on-3 basketball.
No, I didn't realize that.
And we were good, naturally good. And I ended up getting a scholarship like way after the fact, like how kids are recruited today. That did not happen to us. I heard through the rumor mill years ago that our basketball coach, who was also the driver's ed coach, you might find this interesting. So they just threw the job on him. And keep in mind, we're in North Tulsa, a press place. And so he was a driver's ed teacher. We did all these things. So we heard that like some letters were coming in from schools that were interested in us. And he threw that away. He threw all those letters away and none of us got the opportunity. And so
did he throw them away intentionally?
Well, why else would he do it? Or you know what? Maybe he didn't know what to do. Again, it was a different time. But
this is the first I've heard this. Remember, I left. We're older than you, and so I have left and gone away. Right to high school.
So in May, so school probably ended like May 30th. So probably like the 15th of May, we were at Booker T is where I went. And he got a call and said, hey, this Puerto Rican guy from Langston University is here, and he wants to talk to you and a couple of my other girlfriends, like Mimi and Sabine. You knew them from back in the day. So anyway, we met in a room, and he was like, hey, I'm a basketball coach, and we want y'all to come to Langston. I had no plans for college. I thought I'd be working in McDonald's the rest of my life, literally. And it was May the 15th. And I think we reported to college August 1st.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's back up. You were a teen mom.
I was a teen mom. Yeah, not by choice, but it's something I'll probably say throughout is it was just the times we were in. So you have a baby and now you have an opportunity to go to college. Sure did. But let's back up having the baby. So I was 16 and had never had a boyfriend. So I dated this guy for about a year. I was feeling pressure to have sex. And again, back then, our mamas didn't talk about sex. They just said, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Didn't give us the why. We never got the why. So after a year dating, I felt compelled to had sex, got pregnant. 5 months later.
The first time you had sex?
Not the first time doing it. So 5 months later, in December of 76, Mama said, I don't know what Melanie waiting for. She knows she's pregnant. She better go to the doctor. And so went to Planned Parenthood. And then I came home and I said, Mama, you ain't gonna believe what they said.
So you really didn't know you were pregnant?
I don't know, because I was still playing basketball. I was in the dance ensemble. And, with this 6-foot frame,
you probably carried the baby in your hips.
I was in denial. So that's saying either you're pregnant or you're not, because I didn't have a period. It was just like, I was thinking I was going to go away. So found out end of December that I was pregnant. And then I had him in February.
February.
Yeah, he was 7 months, no prenatal. Took me to Hillcrest, which was like the closest hospital to North Tulsa. And then they were like, but we can't do nothing. We don't have the facilities for this. So they sent me out to St. Francis. And had him there. Uh-huh.
Okay, so the baby, now college.
So I was still in high school. I was a junior when I had him in February 76.
Oh, you said 16.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But I just turned 17 when I had him because I'm sorry. So I found out right when I turned 17 because my birthday's at the end of November, and it was in December when I found out I was pregnant. So I had like my oldest brother, who's Thomas is 2 years older than me. He had left, may have been in the military. So at home I had 2 brothers and a sister, and they were 11, 12, and 13 at the time, Brian, Charlotte, and Charles. So never thought about what I would do to take care of him. I'm like, I guess he's going to live here with us. I mean, you don't have any option.
Thomas is gone. Thomas is gone. Free bed for the baby.
Yeah. Well, and we all slept like basically in the same beds anyway. So I finished my senior year at high school with a child. Sure did. And then I was talking about the opportunity to go to college. I mean, I never thought about, what am I going to do with my kid? I would just assume he'd stay there with everybody else.
He'd stay in the house while you went to college.
And that's exactly what happened. And Mama kept him until he was 6. I graduated college. He had just turned 6. And then I was in Oklahoma City at the time. Am I going too fast?
No.
The stories. Okay. So college, went to Langston. My Puerto Rican coach, how you say that, Coach Cologne, lifesaver. And he liked me. So for 2 years, it was the first time like a women's team at Langston had gone to the nationals. We were just killing the game. So at the end of my sophomore year, he got a call from Oklahoma City University. And they were like, hey, we have a program here. We see you're a good coach. Can you come? And he said, yeah. And what I didn't know, he asked if he could bring me. And I was not the best player.
So were you one of the only ones that he took? You're the only one he took. Okay.
Only one he took. Now, keep in mind, I go from a totally HBCU, raised, not really dealing with white folks. Excuse my language, but that's how we said it. So now I'm at Langston, and it's, 95% Black. So I get ready to go to Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City University at the time, they're known for dance and literature. They have a great law school and a business school. And they've had like several Miss Americas to go there as well. So Coach Cologne asked me about coming, and I was like, okay. So my friends turned against me, go to Oklahoma City. And one thing I remember doing, I don't know if it's embarrassing or not, but when I was filling in my paperwork to go there in a room, I said, I literally put on the application, I don't want a room with nobody but white.
That's what you put on your application?
And the dean and everybody had to have a meeting with me when I got there because I didn't have much exposure to.
So what did they interpret? What do you think they interpreted that as? That you were prejudiced, or?
They were, probably. And there weren't that many African Americans at the school anyway. So they just wanted to know who was this person and why would she say that? And I said, I think for me it was more fear than anything. And I was not comfortable. Because I didn't have many interactions up until that point. But yeah, we went to Oklahoma City University. We did well there.
So let me stop you here for a second. So I remember asking you, because your major when you were in school, and I remember asking you why you picked the major that you picked, which was social services. Would that be
social work?
Social work. And so, can you remember what you told me when I said, why'd you pick that major? Because, I didn't go to college till later in life and didn't know what to pick.
I don't remember.
You told me because you picked social work because you knew the welfare worker.
And
you thought that was the only kind of work that one would pick. And that was the only degree that one would go to for a college. Can you remember that?
I do. That's a good memory. Yeah. And I was, when you asked me that question, I was like, I didn't know anything else because the welfare workers is probably the only professional people we saw. The guy across the street, Mr. Homer, was a school teacher, but we just didn't have access to information. A lot of stuff we didn't know about. And so I guess I'll be a social worker, but ended up getting my degree in corrections. And because I think it was an easier path, and I was just trying to get my degree, and that's how and why I did that.
And you did that work for
about 8 years. So my basketball career ended in March of '82. We finished up, and I played in what they called NAIA back in the day. So it's not like Division I and Division II, but our season ended in March, and I had a pretty good relationship with the guy over the department. I don't even know what it would have been called, not social studies, but whatever it was. I had taken probably 3 or 4 classes with him. So I was talking to him one day, and I said, I need to get a job now. I mean, that's kind of how we were raised. You got to work. So now this basketball is over. There wasn't NIL. There wasn't BEOG were the grants back in the day. BEOG grants. I think that's what it was. Basic Educational Opportunity Grants. Look at that. Look at me remembering stuff. So anyway, he's like, well, I know this guy that runs a halfway house, blah, blah, blah. So I started working part-time at this halfway house, and it was a facility, and literally it was halfway from the federal prison system. These guys would come here, get reintegrated into society, and then they would go home. And depending on what their levels were, they could go home on the weekend. We did a lot of drug tests, had to send some people back. So that's how I started doing that. So once I graduated in May, Tony D'Amico, that was the guy who was over the halfway house program. And I said, hey, I'm graduated. Can I get a full-time job? And
so let me ask you this. So single mom, college, now you're working. So at this point, it sounds like you're out of the house with the rest of the family, and you're in another city. So is your son with you at this point, and is the son's dad active in his life, or where are you as far as relationships at this point?
So his biological father was my friend and my boyfriend. So he was 16. So it wasn't, and he was one of 8 kids, I believe, and he had siblings ages 1, 2, and 3 still living at his mama's house. So we had a lot going on. So we were teenagers. It happened. So I meet this guy who's older than me, like 4 or 5 years older than me. And we start dating, and we were together a long time.
Funny thing is, I think back, your first husband, ended up being your first husband. You said you met him going in for your 6-week checkup. Is that
at the hospital? Yes. No, I was pregnant.
Oh, you were pregnant?
I was sitting in the, actually, Deronda, your sister, took me. Because we didn't have a car. We rode the bus everywhere. My mother never had a car, never drove. But we were at Hillcrest probably a couple of weeks before I had the baby. So I must have been having some problems there. And I was sitting in that waiting room, and my ex walked past, and I was sitting there with a little bit of a belly, at 7 months. And that's when I first met him.
Okay.
But with him being an older guy, I didn't know him. So he actually went to our church. And I was friends with his brother, Robert. We were the same age. So just to kind of speed it up a little bit, he ended up moving to Oklahoma City my senior year. Okay. He was working in Tulsa. So he decided to move to Oklahoma City. As a matter of fact, lived in a house with my brother, Brian, who's no longer here, and your brother, Pandy. We were in Oklahoma City in the slum, but it didn't care because we're from Tulsa. We're not afraid of the hood. We're not afraid.
We knew how to roll with whatever situation we're in.
So he moved to Oklahoma City my senior year of high school. Of college. And then we ended up just staying there after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
At some point in time, you and Tommy got married.
Yeah, in '89. So we had been together I literally met him, Darrell, I don't think he was 6 months old. So I met him at some point in 77. And then from then, so in 89, after living our life or whatever, I said, we probably need to get married.
Okay.
And probably because I was getting older and stuff. So we went ahead and got married in 89.
So do you mind describing your marriage, your first marriage?
Oh, not at all. It was like, I don't want to say it's like I married my dad, but it was definitely like an older brother, somebody who pretty much told me what to do. I was young and naive, did not have any role models. Did not, when you think about...
Like most of us.
Yeah. So it was 5, our mothers, it was 5 girls. And when you look at the family, there really weren't any stable men around. And then the one man we thought was stable because he had a good job, they had a house. And then we find out he's molesting our cousins in that situation. So when I met Tommy, he was working. He was nice, but he pretty much,
dressed nice,
but pretty much told me what to do, when to do it. And I didn't know any different. I just knew that I love family like you, and family is important. And then I also knew that as a woman, there were a lot of things that you had to put up with. Whether you
thought we had to put up with.
We thought we had to put up with. There's a lot of things we just turned a blind eye. A lot of things we just made excuses for. And that was it. And I was young when I got with him. And the problem for him is that I grew up. I grew up. I started being exposed to things. Didn't have social media, as you know.
So
go ahead.
So your exposure. And I can remember, because I had moved away, and I remember we communicated a lot. Look, on Sundays when we had those calling cards, and we could call each other on Sundays.
Minutes were cheaper.
Yeah, all those calling cards for minutes were cheaper. But by now you transition from the correction office to working for Xerox. And so you met a lot of people when you're talking about your exposure.
So when I was working in corrections, being in Oklahoma City, I started being exposed to different things.
Okay.
Because we were pretty closed in Tulsa. So just hearing things and learning things. And to be honest, I knew I shouldn't have married him. As a matter of fact, I mean, he had said no all these years, said no to having other children because he had other children with his ex, whatever that relationship. I don't think they were married or whatever. But when I was like, I want to get married, I'm going to leave, I'm trying to be big and bad. He called my bluff. Okay, let's get married. So we got married, but it didn't get any better. But I try not to blame him because like so many men and women in Tulsa just, you're in this bubble, you doing what you see other people do. And, he didn't have any guidance, and bless his heart, his mother was killed by a jealous boyfriend one night, pulled up to her next to a stop sign, and he had followed her. She was at a club that night. She leave with some guy, and I guess he followed them, and at the stop sign, he shoot the woman in the head. And Tommy and his other brother and 2 sisters, and the girls were like 1 and 2, and so just to, and I'm not making excuses for him because we all know right from wrong, but I'm just saying it's just you got all that stuff.
And he was the oldest, wasn't he?
He was the oldest,
and so he probably that control, and I need to take care of.
Absolutely. They were separated. Him and his brother and his 2 sisters. They had to go live with other relatives or whatever. But so when I started knowing better, I was trying to bring him up with me. I'm like, hey, and I remember one time I was at Xerox and just listening to, I'm like literally a 5-10%er. And like at that time in corporate America, if you saw one African American, you were lucky. So I think there were maybe 2 of us there, 2 or 3. And so they started talking about, going back to school, getting education, because he went to college out of high school. And he came home because his girlfriend was pregnant. He was on a basketball scholarship. And yeah, that, sports runs in our blood. So I'm like, hey, why don't you go out to Central State? That was in Edmond. Get your degree. I could help you. Don't be telling me what to do, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, because if you do that, you can get about a job, the money. So I literally went out there and enrolled him that first semester. And
even though he said no, you enrolled him?
Well, I encouraged him.
Okay.
But I went out there. I was doing all the paperwork, and I don't even know how we paid for it back then, but I'm sure back then it was dirt cheap, And even that first semester, it was like I was doing all the work, and basically I wanted it more for him than he wanted.
Right.
So I ain't doing that. And so he only did the one semester, which is really unfortunate because he could have got his degree and did some other things.
So we're going to take a pause and we'll be right back. All right, we're back. And Mel, so you were saying that you felt like you wanted more for Tommy than he wanted for himself, as far as even trying to help him get enrolled in school. And so what happened after that?
Well, we just kind of went back to living. My mother died in 90. Annie. So she died in 90, and I was pregnant that year. I don't know if we talked about that, but I'd gotten pregnant early in 1990. And I know I sound repetitive, but back in the day, the technology and information wasn't there. So I remember going in for my checkup. So I was either 4 or 5 months pregnant, and go in, and the doctor, she was like, oh, you're pregnant, but you're not pregnant. No bedside manner. I'm like, what? She said, you're pregnant, but you're not pregnant. So I don't remember what the name of it. It's not an impulse. So, but whatever it was, I had miscarried.
Wow.
The baby didn't go from whatever to
fully develop.
Yeah. And so these are the options. She said, you can go home and you'll probably miscarry in a couple of days, or we can just schedule a D&C tomorrow.
And that's how sensitive she was.
No bedside manner. So I went in, and Mama was still living because Mama died in August of 90. Then I remember calling her, and she cried on the phone. And I was really surprised that I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that was surprising that she could cry. So finish out that year. Again, Mama died and stuff. And then I got pregnant again.
So you lost the baby and your mom died.
And Mama died.
The same year.
And I'm feeling different about everything at this point.
So do you mind because I remember, I don't remember you being pregnant. I remember that you lost the baby, but I don't remember, I remember you going into a state of depression, and I didn't understand depression. I remember telling you that, Melanie, because I was trying to get you to come out and do something, and I was saying, anytime Ella wouldn't want you to be sitting in here crying, and I remember you going off on me. You don't know what my mama went back because my mama's not here, but not understanding depression.
Yeah.
And so, in my ignorance, I'm trying to get you out and about, but not knowing that depression is something that people suffer with and still suffer with. Can you tell us a little bit about?
Yeah. I still deal with low grade depression today. And I think it started when Mama died because she was only 50. I was 30. She died of a heart attack at 50. Her mother, our grandmother, died at 50 of a heart attack. So I'm like, oh my God, I got maybe 20 years here. It was really hard because we had just had our family reunion.
We did, like that weekend before?
That weekend. And we were all there, and she was instrumental. And I think that was one of our first family reunions we had done, and she was very instrumental. And so we saw her Sunday, and she was walking to mission practice that's Tuesday evening, and then just walked into church, walked inside the church, sat down and died. So yeah, that was very traumatic. So when I think about the depression, it's a you just totally withdraw, and you feel like this cloud is over you, and it's in a sunken feeling. It's like your chest just kind of caves in, and you don't have a desire to do much. But being a person who has a lot of people that depend on you to do for them, you got to figure out a way to push through it. So a lot of stuff that you do it blindly. You don't even realize that you're taking care of kids. You don't even realize that you're going to work, driving. There are movies like during the pandemic, everybody was probably watching movies they watched 20 and 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. So then I'm watching things through a different lens now. So I was like, oh man, I don't remember this. You hear stories, you'll see a biography. You're like, oh God, I don't remember none of that. So it's not that, you weren't in the moment. It's just that you
can remove yourself
completely remove yourself from it. And it's, so I'm not a crier. So I never grew up depression and stuff. It's like, I don't cry. I don't think about killing myself, but it's a sadness. And I've had the ability to compartmentalize things, which is good. I have the ability to look better than I feel. I got that gift. I do know that. And I, again, have the capability of doing what I need to do, looking like I need to look. And then you're just totally exhausted.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It seems like that would be draining.
It is.
So did you ever talk with anyone? I think most of us, and especially our age group, we think that certain things are embarrassing if we go seek outside help. Do you think that for someone that's going through depression, would you recommend that they keep it internal, or that I know we're not doctors, but I'm saying you deal with that.
Well, it's okay now. The taboo is not there. I would probably, and I'm good for the most part, but if I had gotten some counseling, I could honestly say I would probably make some different decisions. Would probably not put up with some things that I've been putting up with. But I will say my relationship with the Lord has sustained me. I do know that just going to Him, letting Him guide me. But He has given us tools to help us here on this earth, because He can't do it all. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I would recommend counseling. But I would say older people, if you're over 50, you're not going to go do that, because we didn't believe in it. Now my daughter, oh yeah, she's millennial. Oh my God. Oh yeah, we're gonna get us some counseling, and we're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna cry on my social media. I'm gonna say when something's not right, and I applaud them that they have the ability to do that. But even today, where I'm sitting today,
So what gave you the courage? So you were saying your first husband, more like a father figure. And I remember when you decided, I don't remember what point you decided you were leaving, but I remember when you did I think you had left, and I remember you calling me, and we were kind of trying to laugh through this painful point where he told you only had one pair of earth shoes when you met. Now you're all up at the end. So what do you think was the turning point that you were saying, I don't want to do this anymore?
I realized that it wasn't going to get better. So we had been through a lot of things. And like I said, I was with him a long time, and okay, we're not going to do this anymore. This is not going to happen. And this is kind of silly, but I was in Tulsa one weekend, and so usually when you get to Tulsa, you and your girls get together. So we're going to a comedy show. me, Bernadette, and Kay. And then we decided to slide by one of the old standard clubs there in Tulsa, probably Miss Bickie's.
Mm-hmm.
But to make a long story, Miss Bickie's, right. And to make a long story short, we walk in the club and I think it's okay to say this now. We walk in and he's slow dancing with this girl on the dance floor. And I was like, damn. And I was like, that was it for me. And of course he tried to blame me for it. But again, it was,
you shouldn't have came in here. Why are you in here?
Why are you in here?
Yeah.
We just slow dancing. But it was for me, I had to accept what it was. I'd been fighting it. No, it's not that bad. And you know, that was it. That was it. And then shortly after that, I began my exit plan. You know, we talk about exit plans a lot, but I began it. And there was, what is it when a woman's fed up?
Yeah. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I got there. And that was in 93. So I had a 3-year-old daughter and I was ready, whatever it looked like.
Not afraid.
Not afraid. Not afraid. That's a good way to put it. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I wanted, when I had my son, I was a teenager, so I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And it's by the grace of God that he's here, healthy. But when I had her, I was a little older, so I had him at 17 and I had her at 32.
Okay. So
I knew I wanted something different for her. And so I was not willing to put up with that. I knew I wanted to be a role model for her because I knew at this time it was like so much more to offer. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that when I was 17. And so I thought to give her a fair shake that I should do the right thing. Yeah.
So she was probably too young to even know that.
Yeah.
So how did it affect your son? Because I know that's probably who was dad to him. You think it affected him in any way?
So he was, what was he, 17? So he was probably 17. Yeah. So he probably knew more things than I. He
was like, oh, my mom could have told you he had a girlfriend.
Yeah. He was a junior in high school and he was on his basketball path, you know, doing great things, was getting ready to go to college. And, you know, he and I are so close. He knew a lot of things and I would never say anything about his, and Tommy is his dad as far as we're concerned. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate everything Tommy did from a male perspective, because I don't think a woman can really raise a man, right? I mean, she can do what she can, but there are just some things that you need a male influence for. Mm-hmm. I'll put it like that. But I mean, he understood and we just kept it trucking. Just, it's like, what I'm on your side. Whatever you want to do, let's do it.
Yeah, and I love that.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, I think back when you said the slow dancing, because I don't know if you even remember my ex-husband, Marvin, and I married 6 months after you all got married.
Yep.
Marvin and I divorced 6 months after you all divorced.
No, I didn't realize that.
We did. Because I remember Tommy talking to me when I told Tommy. Well, actually, I guess Marvin told Tommy that I had asked for a divorce. And Tommy was trying to keep me from getting a divorce. And that's how I remember the time frame.
Wow.
But I don't know if you remember this, but it's kind of funny because my breaking point with Marvin, I had gone into a club and it was in Oklahoma City. And Andy and Marvin had gone out. And I don't know if it was you and I. It was the two of us that had gone in the club. But I saw Marvin slow dancing with somebody, and it was almost time for the club to close, right? And he just in that dance. And it was because it was almost time to close. And I pulled my chair up on the dance floor. They were the only two on the floor. He never even saw me on the floor. I pulled my chair on the dance floor. And I'm like, there like out. Yeah.
I think I remember. Well, I mean, if you're in Oklahoma City hanging out, we were probably
us together. But
that's fun.
Well, you know, I did a whole lot of crazy things. So yeah. 6 months after you divorced. And do you ever think about what your life would have been like if you didn't move forward?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Absolutely. And my son thanks me all the time for getting us out of there. We would probably be living the lifestyle that everybody else was living, limited on information, limited on hope, and limited on aspirations. Because there are no limits in the world that we live in right now, right? We understand things, but no, even when you accomplish something, you almost had to make excuses for it.
I know, that's so sad.
Or you had to downplay, I got a degree.
So you were always my inspiration. Even though I'm a year older than you.
11 months.
11 months older. Yeah, even though I'm 11 months older than you. Watching you go to college and knowing you had a baby and I'm thinking, well, if she could do it, I can do this.
Yep.
And getting to college and even one of our, probably our first family member to get a master's degree. You probably were our first family member.
Probably.
Same thing. I trailed behind you and I'm like, okay, Melanie did this. You always and still are my sheetrock. Melanie did this. You can do this, Karen. You can do this,
But not realizing it though.
And so it is seeing someone that a lot of times that helps us because I feel like with us, unfortunately, I see people where it's a competition with people.
Right.
I feel like with our family, it's always a rallying, a support, a push forward. And so I'm grateful for that and not even realizing until we got later in life, that's not everybody's family. We like raised like sister cousins. Like you said, our mom it was 5 sisters. Mm-hmm. And on weekends, we were always with each other. Yeah. And so we were sister cousins. And same thing with our male, cousins, brother cousins. And I always had that strong support. Mm-hmm. And even listening to some of our younger cousins, it always warms my heart when they say that, it was scary to me first when they say, well, I'm looking up to you. And even with where you said being removed from the situation where your son thanked you. Mm-hmm. Same thing with your lifestyle. Yeah. I remember everyone used to look up to you all lifestyle because you all would move forward and be the first to have. Mm-hmm. And so where you said the guilt, let's talk about that guilt that we put on ourselves are trying to downplay because we're trying to make somebody else comfortable.
Yeah, you buy a house and you be like, oh, it ain't that big a deal. And,
and we're like,
ooh, yeah.
This house is everything.
You got 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. I know. Well, and the other thing, having money and access, it makes you look a little different. You look different. You sound different. You move a little different. Now, in your mind, you're not really thinking that because you still think you still that same person. But then you realize when people kind of start separating themselves away from you and it's not so much, I think a lot of time it's like they're uncomfortable. I think envy plays a part in that. Not that they want to be envious, but sometimes they just really wish it was them. Mm-hmm. That's a tough thing. Somebody just asked me recently about that. Like, well, when you go to Tulsa, do you kind of look back? Do you think people see you differently? And I was like, well, back in the day, I wouldn't, because I'm kind of private anyway, for the most part. But I didn't. For one, we never talk about money, and then you just kind of downplay things you're doing. I said, so like if I go somewhere and I'm, like in the house that we were raised in, holes in all the floors.
So funny thing, you rinse my glass out before you drink out of it and tell me what you said.
Yeah, so I was going to get this tea it's okay. She gives me this glass, and I was like, no offense, I need to rinse this out. And I said, because when you're raised in a house with roaches, you have to rinse it out. So I haven't lived with roaches in 100 years.
But it's still that habit.
Even at my home today, before I use anything, I have to
still rinse it out.
Yeah. And so the difference, like where I came from when I graduated college and started this life, I didn't really want people to like see like my house and the success I had. But
so we're talking about people that you grew up with?
I'm talking about everybody.
You didn't want nobody to see it.
Not really. No, because you
were afraid maybe that they might feel like you thought you were more important.
Right.
And that's so funny because my Aunt Z, she's always done well as a nurse. And I used to ask her, why do you drive an older car? Why do you live in this little apartment? And she said, because she didn't want to make other people uncomfortable. And it's funny from the religious aspect, my thing was always, my father's rich in houses and land.
Yeah.
And if I'm his child, then I'm supposed to be rich.
Right.
And so for me, it was feeling like I want people to see where I was and what God has done for me in my life. And it is interesting how, it was a show, I can't remember, there was a series that was on, and it was a basketball player and they were poor. And it was one of those.
It's old now.
It's like the guilt.
Yeah.
Survivor's remorse. Was survivor's remorse. And I think people still have survivor's remorse. And that's, so, I don't, what would you say to, that 18-year-old or that younger Melanie that was just having a baby and to where you are today? What would you say to that person back then?
I'd say, girl, you better get everything that you can get right now, because tomorrow ain't promised. So you better learn everything that you can learn. Surround yourself with, close your mouth and listen when people are talking. I did that a lot at Xerox. I mean, again, the environment I was in, these people were doing some stuff. So you be quiet and you listen. You be grateful for what you have. Help as many people as you can help along the way. That's what I would tell her. Just to take a step back, talking about how times are different. I don't know if you know it or not, but my last year of college, I got an opportunity to go to Sweden and play basketball, professional basketball. Got the offer. Me and my stupid self still, I ain't going over there. They might try to kidnap me. I got a kid over here now. My mom, mama would have taken care of him, but it was just fear. It was ignorance, unknown. But just think about what that could have done if I'd gone and played basketball. Could have made a lot of money, came back, which would have continued the elevation in my path. I know.
Wow.
I know.
For Melanie, this has been phenomenal. Thank you for being on the show. And I'd like to say to those of you that get handed lemons, because life does hand us lemons, make lemonade out of those lemons. And take advantage, as Melanie said, of every opportunity that comes your way, because we only get one shot at this thing called life. Thank you for joining us and have an awesome life.
Those in the know SIPS Consults. SIPS Consults is hiring. Confident, competent, and consistent. Starting as a consultant and a volunteer, SIPS has grown into a dynamic group of stellar sterile processing professionals, offering excellent benefits, 401k, and consultant in training program. We are hiring certified technicians, leads, supervisors, interim managers, educators, coordinators. Apply at recruiting@sipsconsults.com or dial 1-866-615-7977.